us on a Tuesday afternoon, the 19th day of June 2018, as we talk about the world of sports. Last time we were going to see Colin Schmeling for a while, so he'll run the crew. New baby, and out Layla there, who he loves, that daughter of his, her world is going to rock. And that little boy, have you picked out a name yet? Dylan, Owen, what is it?
We have a couple in mind.
Well, all right, so give me one.
Dylan was one of the front runners. Yeah, probably not though. That's probably like third right now.
What's the leading?
We're really doing this on the air?
Yes, I want to know the name.
Quinn.
I like that name.
And then a late comer here was Nathan.
I don't like Nathan.
Nate.
They don't tell people. No. Quinn, I like Quinn.
That was Laura. Yeah, Quinn's been my name for years.
Go Quinn. So when Quinn pops in the world here in about 24 hours, Layla's world's going to erupt, and there we go. Eddie Erickson's in the house today, and our good buddy is Billy Zimmerman with the pepperoni pie. Bill is making a trip down in D.C., I've heard. Oh, my God, does he hate that? He hates that All-Star game unless it's in Cincinnati, which is not too far from his beck and call in Chicago. That is one event he despises, that All-Star game. And he's going to go down there, and I'm going to make him go on Saturday with me, so he has dinner with me, and he's going to come back on Wednesday morning. So Bill can have the pepperoni pie down in the district as we have fun. Nice to have you with us. 888 Mad Dog 6 and a great SiriusXM 82 as we do a little listen, a little of that today on this afternoon show here on the great SiriusXM as we babble. All right, Russia leads Egypt 1-0. You know what's going on there. A couple of upsets in the World Cup. Poland lost and Colombia lost. I don't know if I want to go too crazy with that in those groups, but we will get to that if you wish with a spot a little bit later on. We have, listen, it's really a strange time. I was thinking about this about 10 minutes ago, matter of fact. It's a strange time to do sports talk right now, because if you're a sports talk show, now listen, if I was in a local market, if I wanted to break down the Yankees and the Yankee offense and beating Washington and how good they are in the Red Sox race, or if I was in New York and I wanted to, break down the Callaway and the Mets and the trades they could make, and everybody now is, I guess, available, I could do that. If you're in, Cleveland, you certainly know what you're going to do there. You can do LeBron all day. If you're in Texas, you can figure out a way to do Kawhi Leonard. Same thing in Philly, how we can get our hands on him. If you're in D.C., you can do a little Barry Trotz and where Barry Trotz might end up. By the way, speaking of that, how does Washington expect to keep a Stanley Cup coach who's been around for a long time for basically $1.5 million a year? He was making $1.5 million a year. Babcock up there in Toronto makes $5-6 million a year, and so does Julian in Montreal. I mean, how in the world what are we going to pay him $1.5 million a year? That's ridiculous. He just won a Stanley Cup for you, your first ever as a franchise, and he deserves credit for it. And your contract offer was $1.5 million and $2 million in D.C., and you're going to sit there and say, well, we didn't want to make a big long-term agreement with Barry because 5 years is too long. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd from that standpoint. So you could do that if you're in D.C. If you have a Stanley Cup winning coach, I don't care who his assistant is, you keep him. The bottom line is, and if it costs you a little extra money, you figure out a way to keep them, and they did not do that. I did not understand that. I know Girardi got fired last year by Cashman. They didn't want to pay him all that money, so I understand this. You kind of wear out your welcome, but I don't get the impression Trotz wore out his welcome. So if you're in D.C., you could do a sports talk program on that today. If you're in San Francisco, you can do a sports talk program on Strickland, who stinks, who blew another game last night to the Marlins, who scored 3 runs in the 9th inning and then had an issue with Strickland and Brinson when Strickland didn't like the fact that Brinson tossed his bat with a big hit in that 9th inning, so he got all upset. I can't listen to Strickland. It's the same guy who went crazy with Bryce Harper a couple of years ago when he threw the ball and a major fight. So I can't go crazy there. So in essence, this is sort of an in-between week to do sports talk. I guess that's my point. You got the U.S. Open, which you can spend a long time with, and you can get into a situation where you can break down. And first off, you can't get anybody on today. Fox has run for the hills, so you can't find out or track down Curtis Strange. At least Eddie Erickson can't. Maybe Brian Monzo can figure it out, but Eddie Erickson can't. And then the USGA, you couldn't get the USGA, a guy on the air from the USGA today, if his house was on fire. You could not, whether it's Mike Davis, Jeff Jones, you can't find him. So I would love to do a little recap of the USGA after what Billy Andrade said yesterday, but you cannot figure out a way to get him, or anybody involved there. And I thought Strange would be good because he won the back-to-back U.S. Opens, but Fox does not return Eddie Erickson's calls. So from that standpoint, that makes it tricky, so I can't go there. I could do tennis today, but it's too soon for Wimbledon. Andy Murray returned today and lost in the Queen's Club to Nick Kyrgios in 3 sets. I could break that down today for you, but nobody's that interested, so I can't do that. In essence, there's not a whole, it's sort of an in-between situation today. So what shall I do to start the program? So I thought Andrade was a good way to go. Billy, of course, is on the Pro Tour. We all know that, in the Senior Tour, which John Smoltz, by the way, is going to play in the U.S. Senior Open, which is not this weekend, but next weekend in Colorado Springs. And Smoltz qualified. You remember that double bogey he got in the extra playoff hole, and his opponent had triple, missed a 3.5-foot putt. But Smoltz, that's the one that Smoltz is involved in. Anyway, Billy, I am going to try to take Billy to maybe, if he can squeeze it in his calendar, the late July, a weekend, a one-day member guest at Shorehaven. And I called them today, and I said, geez, can I bring a +4 to a member guest? Can you bring a +4 to a member guest? +4, if you don't know, means he's giving 4 strokes back to the course, not the other way around. Can you bring a +4? And they said, I don't see any problem with it. And then I said, well, what tee box? You know, those member guests, they play, they don't go all the way in the back. They play, you know, there's the one tee box, which is sort of in a moderate, it's the blue tees, which is not up in front, but it's not all the way at the tip. So what do you do with that? Do you play him from the back of the bus to make an exception, or do you play him from the blue tees? And then I said to myself, if I bring Billy to that event, we can have fun with it and have some laughs on the air when we talk, because I'm inept and he's great and we can have fun there. But by the same token, that embarrasses me if he goes out there and shoots a 66 and his playing partner shoots 101. So that is a very, very tricky situation. So we can discuss that in the course of our afternoon today. Or better yet, we can talk. By the way, Danny Cannell wrote me a beautiful note. Yeah, he came up last week, wrote me a great note, Cannell. I wanted to make sure classy. Tori would never do that. Classy. When I took Tori out to Shorehaven a couple of years ago, not a word out of him. And Cannell wrote a nice note, talked about one of the few good hits I had that afternoon. Did a tremendous job. But we can discuss, Danny, with youth coaches. I know Eddie Erickson said they were doing that all day today about the youth coaches. And we can talk about Steve Torrey with a potpourri at the top of the hour, and how fans and how parents react at youth events. And Danny's betting ways. Danny now is going crazy betting this World Cup soccer, which, is, you really got to be delusional if you're betting Russia and Egypt, a goal and a half for, what was Russia today? Matter of fact, I'll look it up. Was Russia -130 today? I think, Danny, because I know the New York Post now is giving you this 2-day, this 2-page deal. Russia today was, wow, Egypt was favored. I'm surprised. How is that possible? Egypt was favored in this game by a half a goal? No, I'm sorry. Russia was favored by a half a goal, but Russia's +110 on the money line. So this was a dead even game, so to speak. We can do that today. Russia was +110 on the money line today, and Egypt on the money line was +290. Okay, the minus half a goal, Russia was a plus. The money line overall, Egypt was +290 today. You could have gone there if you wanted to and discussed Danny's betting tactics and how it fits in. Or better yet, there is a new sheriff who's coming to town, we think. And I have been talking to Steve. Steve's annoyed by his schedule this summer, because it looks like that I will have some pre-existing situations where I may not be around as much. And so Steve is annoyed because they might have Steve work the afternoon shift. And he wants to get out of here. He don't want to do 3 hours. He doesn't like doing the shows. He does it because he's forced to at the moment for his finances. But there is a new sheriff in town, or coming. It's like one of those new movies. You see the trailer. There is a new sheriff. There's a new sheriff coming to town, and that sheriff is a sheriff who he's cleaned up the Old West. Let's put it that way. That old sheriff has been successful, and we all know that Steve, from a program department, leaves somewhat to be desired. To make a long story short, so that is the reason why I thought it'd be smart to give Steve more radio activity and put him on later in the day at 3 to get him off the bookkeeping stuff, which he gets himself in trouble. So put him in a situation where they have to leave him alone because they got Cannell sitting here, and they like Cannell. So I told Steve this morning when he was moaning and groaning about his hours and, how dare they make me wear the extra 3. I work my rear end off. I got football coming up. Typical, the violin music came out when Steve starts talking about his SiriusXM career, which is, falling off, to be quite fair and quite honest. And so the new sheriff is in town. I said, Steve, be happy that they want you to fill in 3 to 6 because they've already replaced you without in name, but they have replaced you with responsibility with your day-to-day mechanisms. All right, you want to give me a board op at midnight for Wetzel on Friday night, Sunday night, go ahead. You can schedule that person. We'll give you that. You want to sit there and make the calls to get somebody in to do you want to make sure somebody goes down to go to the D.C. with me for the Manfred thing. Go ahead. We'll let you pick one of your robots to go down there to D.C. But as far as the big picture is concerned, you are no longer applicable. So when I ask you to get involved in afternoon drive with Dan, do it. So the more vacation time I take, in a lot of ways, it's better for your career. If you don't go to Rhode Island for 4 days with that dive up there for $100 a week, what the hell? At least you're on the air. Who just scored there? Is that Russia? Russia just scored 2-0. So Russia, I'm sure they rigged this to give them every chance to get to the round of 16. Russia has won 2-0. Anyway, that's where we start on a busy afternoon. Basically with me in Nowheresville. Where do I go? Machado to the Phillies, as Jim Bowden waxed poetic on. The fact that the Orioles like some of those young Philadelphia Philly pitchers. Do we do that today? Kaiwi, or whatever his name is, somewhere in the East Coast, Sixers or the 76ers or the Celtics. Do we care about that? Kaiwi. God almighty, I could care less. The fact that maybe Michael Porter Jr. is moving up on the draft list, oh, who cares? Jeez, who cares? I'll deal with that Thursday for 10 minutes with PJ. I'll be the first to admit. Barry Trotz to the Islanders for the aforementioned Colin Schmeling, who's going to depart now for about 3 months on paternity leave. Speaking of that, can you imagine if you worked for the cantankerous George Weiss? Who is George Weiss, you ask? George Weiss was the longtime Yankee general manager who, or Barrow, Ed Barrow, I'll give you a better one. Ed Barrow, who wouldn't give Garrick a job when Garrick had his speech at Yankee Stadium and he wanted to work for the Yankees. Could you imagine if Colin Schmeling worked for Ed Barrow and happened to tell Eddie when Quinn is going to join the world? By the way, we have a new policy here at SiriusXM of paternity leave for fathers. And we now get, I think it's 2 months of paternity leave. Is it 2 months?
4 consecutive weeks.
4 consecutive weeks.
Which I will be taking in August.
Can you imagine Ed Barrow, who ran the Yankees to nothing but championships, who let Garrick die working for Florio LaGuardia, the Florio LaGuardia, the mayor, in the I forget what he did, but it wasn't much. Wouldn't get him a job at the Yankees. Can you imagine if Colin Schmeling had Ed Barrow in HR and said, Eddie, I'm going to be gone for 4 weeks because I have paternity leave? Ed Barrow would say, what are you, nuts? You leave, you come back, you don't even go to the hospital. Your wife calls you what kind of kid you have, and you come here and do a talk show. 4 weeks. 15 years ago, I had a child born. I barely got to the hospital. And now we have Colin, 3-0 Russia. Now we have Colin sitting there taking 4 consecutive weeks off for Quinn or Nathan. No, Nathan. Quinn.
Hey, you play by the rules they give you, right?
That's a joke. 4 weeks.
Chris, that's America 2018.
We are soft.
You think we're the only company that does that?
We are soft. My God, we are soft. Oh, my God. I had a day.
You should have another kid.
No way.
5 Russos.
No. 4. So, we have Andre at Shorehaven with a +4. We have the USGA running for the hills. We have Fox can't track down Curtis Strange. Brian Monzo, though, he, of course, FAN, he's got him. We could not get him. We have Steve Torrey with the new sheriff in town today. And Steve moaning and gloaning that he's got to work afternoon drive late. We got Danny Cannell, who took Egypt on a money line today at +290. He's going to lose that bet. What else is new for Danny? We have Manny Machado to the Phillies. That compliments of Jim Bowden, who is not a general manager in baseball for about 3 decades. So that is where we stand on a busy afternoon. Should I continue?
Hey, you got the 420.
And here's the other thing. The morning show with Mike Babchek is so desperate that they heard Colin Russo, if I'm not mistaken, on the air with us last Friday, and they were so betwixt by Collie that we might get Colin to make a weekly appearance. Colin, did you hear about this? Over there on a morning show. A point-by-point counterpoint with Babchek. We get Colin in the mix. I don't think Babchek can handle Colin, but maybe we shall find out as we continue. There's a new sheriff in town. Who shot Liberty Valance? Here's a new one. Who shot Steve Torrey? Torrey's out. 20 after the hour. Laugh, Eddie. Laugh. Mad Dog Unleashed.